This video will show you how to install your E-BikeKit LiFePO4 battery rack. Before you start, you want a couple of tools, Phillips head screwdriver, large adjustable wrench, and a set of metric Allen keys. Got the rack, and it comes with 3 bags of hardware. These bags each go to different parts of the rack, so keeping them separate might make it a little easier. And there's the battery. Harry is going to help us out here, and so we'll start by opening up the bag with the lower struts. And you'll see inside that you have some sets of screws and some lower struts. Pannier clips there. And you've got these metric screws for the struts and for attaching to the bike. And so if you go to the struts on the bottom, you can attach those by sliding them in the channel. There you go. And on this bike, we know that we're going to want to slide them up so that so that just the lower holes are visible. And that should just about do it. Once you have that, you can feed the screw in from the other side. Got that backwards, Harry. If you look in the back of the channel, it'll actually hold the nut in place. So when you slip that in, all you do is turn it now with your wrench, and the back of the channel holds the nut for you. Okay, I've got that all tightened up. On your bike, it may be a different hole is the appropriate one, so you'll have to try and see which one. I'll show you here. You can see that groove that the nut sits in. That little channel holds the nut for you while you turn it. And now we're going to do the other side. We'll tighten these on up. So in this hardware kit, we're using the larger of the 2 screws here, the M6 screws with the nylock nuts. The smaller M5 screws are going to be the ones that attach directly to the bike. These clips that Harry's putting on the outside are for bungee cords or for hooks on the bottoms of panniers. Totally optional, really. Now once we've got that, we can start working on the upper attachment hardware. So these rods will connect to those blocks, and that will connect it to the rack and the bike. Now with the rods, you'll take the draw bolts, the silver cylinders, slip that onto the rod, and then that connects the block. And under the head of the screw, we want to be sure to use the split washer to keep it from vibrating loose. And the screws are actually sized for the washer, so it's not going to tighten up right unless you have the washer. The screws will end up being too long. Use the washers. So we're just going to make these finger tight so we can adjust them when we get them on the bike. And we're going to make them mirror images of each other so that the rods face the same way on the outside. Now once you've got the 2 blocks finger tight, you take the other 2 M6 screws and their lock washers, and we'll install the rods on the rack. And again, we'll have to adjust everything depending on our bike, so let's just keep putting it on finger tight. And so once more, we'll have those lock washers on the outside. Thread it right on in. Okay. And in most cases, we'll want the rods to be mirror images of each other. So we've got one here that might be a little backwards on the block, just to keep things symmetrical. We might turn this one around. You know what I mean, Harry?
No.
This one's on the outside.
This one on the outside.
Oh yeah, they're both on the outside. Harry did it just right, and I'm looking at it wrong. Take a look at that, guys, and now we can put it on the bike. So Harry's getting the M5 screws ready there, and those are the ones that will screw into the fittings on the bike. Now when we drop the rack on, we'll be looking for some lower eyelets here. And let's see how they look on the bike. Okay, we can get those in finger tight.
No, just hit the wheel.
Oh yeah, let's use the upper eyelets in this case. Looks like on this bike we might want to have used the, yeah, I think we need to adjust the strut upwards perhaps. So you can see in our case the rack is sitting close to the wheel, and that's why you have multiple holes down here, so you can select the one that fits on your bike best. Okay, looks like that's fitting a little better. Okay, so now we've got the lower eyelets finger tight, and we're going to attach to the upper eyelets here. Again, finger tight, and we're going to adjust everything to line up right before we tighten it down fully. On this particular bike we have V-brakes, and you want to be extra careful when you're routing around brake cables to ensure that you don't interfere with your braking. Looks like Harry's found a spot where he can kind of get these in. Okay. Try to level the rack out now. See if we can slide it forward a little. We may need to move these inward slightly so that the rods can slip forward in the bolts. And we'll try to get the rack level over the wheel. Loosen this before you start adjusting so that we can get it lined back up. Okay, with everything loose, we should be able to slide it around like Harry's doing. And now we should hopefully be able to slide the rack forward on the rods and get it level over the wheel. Looks like just a hair more might do it. Okay, it's getting pretty level. Now the first thing to tighten up is the rods, and that should hold everything level. Then we can put the battery on. Hold this here for you. Looks like in our case for tightening up the rods on these blocks, it may have been easier if we had put the screws in the other way. Yes. But we're off to a good start.
Can you pause for a minute?
So now the next part is to grab the plate out of the battery. So if you unlock the battery with the key, you can slide the plate out. And we have one more set of hardware here. And you can start screwing the plate down to the rack. I want to make sure that the plate is facing up so that the battery can slip over the grooves. And you just line it up. Note that the hole for the lock is up here, the stop for the battery. Then you want to drop the screws in from the top. And if you hold on the nut on the bottom, you get a good grip on it and turn it in place with the screwdriver.
Yep.
So now Harry's got all the nuts started, and when he wants to tighten them up, he'll hold them with the adjustable wrench like this. And he'll tighten them all the way up. Okay, now that he's gotten them started, we can tighten up the bottom struts of the rack. In just a minute, and test fit the battery and be on our way. Okay, let's tighten up the lower struts on the battery. Down here, get these fully tight.
Yeah, got a problem.
And so we get these on as well. Alrighty, so now we can install the battery and lock it down. the battery level, slide it in, and then lock it back with the key. And you should be all set.